Okay, and Sharon, I am not sure if all the speakers are here yet.
Chris,
Chris,
Tammy,
Well,
Ron, and Randy. Yeah.
I'm
okay,
here.
Now we just need an audience.
and a few people emailed saying they wanted to watch the recording, and they couldn't make it. But there's still a few people trickling in. Hey, Bob.
Hi.
And hey, Janelle just hopped on too.
Hello.
How are you doing, Janelle?
Hi, Janelle.
Good. Trying to find a quiet space where my family doesn't follow.
Good luck with that one.
Thanks.
All right. Well, I think we'll go ahead and get started. And just so you know, this is kind of a panel talk, and I want to thank Sharon for suggesting this. Um, this whole presentation is kind of geared towards helping people learn to show their dahlias. And I think it's going to be great whether you've showed before or if you're new. I know every time I talk to like Randy or Ron or Sharon and Jerry, I always learn something new that I can leverage when I'm at shows as well. So today will kind of be a slew of different topics. Unlike our other meetings, I'm gonna let you guys stay off mute. Is that okay, Sharon? I don't know if we talked about it, but if you have questions as we go, um, feel free to like either raise your hand or I think if you take yourself off mute, just make sure that there's a pause and try not to interrupt the speaker. Okay, so with that, on your mark, get set, go.
All righty. Like Jess said, we're going to talk about exhibiting at a show. And we have an illustrious panel here. We have Ron, wave Ron. He knows who you are. And we have Jerry. And Randy. Tammy. And Chris. And you all know Jessica. So DSO has 4 shows a year, 2 fairs, Summit and Petites. Plus, many people go to some neighboring society shows. And of course, there's the Midwest and the ADS National Show. And most of them work pretty much the way we're going to talk about today. I want to emphasize very strongly that this is an overview. I'm hoping you won't feel like you're on the wrong end of a high-pressured hose because we're going to go through a lot of topics at a very high level, but we're going to send out a resource guide that will have a lot more detailed orientation, and we've been trying to gather up all the different documents that we know are here and there and everywhere on the websites so that you can go back and at your leisure figure some of this out. We want you to not be intimidated about showing, but if you're feeling a little bit intimidated, just come to a show and observe. You can also be on the team that helps set up and takes down a show, and that'll get you kind of into show mode. But mostly just give it a try. Bring some blooms, work with your minnow if you have one, and like everything else in life, you learn by doing. And most importantly, this is to have fun. So when does showing season begin? Well, right now. You've probably already decided what cultivars you want to grow. I think you should always plant what you love, but if you're interested, you can research and find out which cultivars show well. There are just some cultivars that really do well in shows. And in the resource guide, we'll have some tips on where you can get that information. I want to encourage you to try to get the names of your cultivars and the classification codes if they are ADS registered dahlias, and you'll see in a little bit why that's important. If you're an ADS member, I suggest that you review the judging modules, which we sometimes do as a group in late winter, because then you can find out what the judges are going to be looking for. And there's also a book, Guide to Judging Dahlias, which you can get at the ADS store. I think it's about $10. That has the same information, and it's just not as much fun as the modules. And I think I skipped getting familiar with the classification guide, but that's okay, because that's the next slide. Okay, if you're an ADS member, hopefully you got this book that's pictured here, the 25 Classification and Handbook of Dahlias. I want to back up a step and just talk about what the word classification means. Cultivars that meet ADS requirements may be registered with the ADS, the American Dahlia Society. We currently have over 11,000 registered dahlias. Each registered dahlia gets a code or a number that identifies the size, form, and color. The codes are not unique because, like all bee-sized cactus form yellow dahlias, will have the same code. And this becomes important when we talk about a show. And that's why I'm telling you all this, because we use these codes to organize our show. So all bee-sized cactus yellow dahlias will compete with each other. And then they may go up the ranks competing against broader and broader groups. And Ron's going to talk about that toward the end of the presentation. In a show, if you have a non-ADS cultivar, it's not going to have an official code because that's actually a copyrighted thing of ADS, but it will get an assigned code for the purposes of competition. And once you understand the classification system, you should be able to look at the dahlia and get pretty close to deciding what the code is going to be. But we will have people at the shows to help you be sure that you're classified properly so that you enter in the right categories. Because if you're a cactus and you enter in formal deck, you don't have a chance. So that's how that works. Cultivars that are currently being shown at shows successfully are in the book, as we say. And that means they are listed in this handbook. And there are currently about 2,000 to 2,500 that are listed in the book in 2025. And again, they're the ones that are being shown, because we have registered dahlias, a couple of them that go back the early 1900s. And, people aren't really growing those anymore. But once you're registered, and you will show up in the composite once you are registered. And you stay there. The composite is a book. It's published about every 5 years. It has, 11,000 plus at the moment. But the information is also available online. And when you go online and look at what we call the online classification guide, you're actually looking at the composite. But for the most part at a show, you're going to be using this handbook. The handbook comes with your membership. This is a little confusing sometimes. The handbook comes out in March. So if you are a member in March, you get a handbook. If let's say you just joined a month ago for the 25-26 year, you won't have gotten the March one, because if you weren't a member then, you didn't get it. You will get one next March. So the first time around, you may need to buy it. It's available in the store, and I think it's $8 and something. So what all is in the book? Well, it has the general information. We're going to look at a slide in a minute. It has general information. It has award information. Did this cultivar win awards when it was first exhibited? And then it also tells you how many blue ribbons it won last year, and did it win any higher awards? Here's a little page out of the classification guide. And this is what I mean when I say general information: name, classification code, size if required, the form, the color, and then if there's extra color information or more detailed color information, it will show in the next column. Then it tells you who hybridized the flower. And in this case, they're all Ron Miner, our very own, and what year the flower was initiated. Okay, so I said there's preseason activities. There are also during the growing season, if you're just growing for beautiful flowers, all of this is true also. But if you're planning on a show, be sure to watch for virus and remove affected plants. You do not want to show up at a show with a virus leaves. Decide on your pruning strategy. And there's a reference in the resource guide that will help you think about pruning strategies. Or Randy, I don't see Kathy behind you. Ask Kathy Foyth if you need a tutorial. I never understood it until Kathy took me out in the garden, and then I understood it. So she's a wonderful resource. And obviously employ good growing practices, spacing, stick and tie. Be sure, you deadhead, and just do all the things that will help you get a nicer bloom. So that's kind of the introduction. And I'm going to turn it over now to Jerry to talk a little more specifically about preparing for a show.
Okay, well, DSO is rather unique in that we host 4 ADS sanctioned Dahlia shows. Most societies host 1. And our 4 shows, as Sharon already mentioned, are at Cuyahoga Fair, which is this August the 9th and 10th. Geauga Fair, which is Friday, August the 29th, to stage our blooms. Summit Mall is our big show. That's in Fairlawn, Ohio, and that's September 26th through 28th. And then our member show is at Petiti's Oakwood, and that's the first Saturday in October. Well, each of the 4 show sites has its own schedule of events. The purpose of a schedule is to indicate the rules of the show and what section and class a bloom is to be entered. The schedules are not the same for each show, so make sure you read them carefully. They will all be online at our website, perhaps over the next week or so. You do need to pre-register for the Cuyahoga show. The entry form is at their site, cuyfair.com, cuyfair.com. Just write Dahlias on the description, and it's $10 by early registration by July the 12th, $15 from July 13 to 23rd. We reimburse you for that. So basically you don't have to pay anything to show. There's no registration available on the day of the show. So make sure you pre-register this year. At Geauga, there's no pre-registration in order to show your blooms, but you enter at gate 4. The guard will open and show you where the flower hall is, and then you pay $5 at the flower hall. And if you want additional tickets, gate tickets, to come at a different time, then you need to go to their website and you can purchase gate tickets at a reduced price. It's $10 if you go if you don't get the reduced price ones. There's no pre-registration for Summit Mall or Big Show, nor Petite. But you register at the show and there's no charge. There's no fee for showing. The timetable for the events, I gave you some of the dates, but they'll be on the show schedule. So I just suggest that you go, once we get them online, you go there and you can check them out. The events, by the way, at each show are set up. We need to do some table arrangements and cover tables perhaps, and put cards down so that you know where to put your blooms. Staging is an event, judging is an event, and then tear down. We always need help for us to tear down the shows. The Petite show has an extra event, and that's a judging seminar that Ron typically holds. Each of us usually brings a bag of items. A pruning shears or a knife is necessary to cut the stalk of your bloom in order to fit the vase that you put it in. A long knife to cut oasis, if in fact you use oasis. You want a classification book with you and the tags filled out. We'll talk about tags a little bit later. I think Randy does. Then a rag and some paper towels to clean up the water mess that you will no doubt make. And then Q-tips in order to clean your blooms from remnants that insects may have left. And then a spray bottle is always kind of nice to spruce up your bloom as you put it on, as you enter it into the show. So what's in a show schedule? The schedule of events, as I had mentioned before, the setup, staging, judging, tear down, and then judging seminar at Petite's. There are there are 3 levels of competition: novice, small grower, and large grower or open to all. You do have to check this show schedule because the definition of novice is different for some of the shows. For example, the fairs, it tends to be, you could be a novice if you have not won more than 5 blue ribbons in previous fair, the respective fair show. Whereas at Summit and Petite, I think you're allowed to be novice for up to 3 years. Then you have to move on to either small grower or large grower. What do you show? Well, single blooms for sure. Then there are also opportunities for multiples, like 3 blooms or 5 or maybe 10 blooms and so on. At Petite's, Jess will talk later about the market bunch, which is kind of a new event that we're introducing. I think we introduced it last year, and we'll continue this year. And that's only at the Petite show. Arrangements we also call artistic design. So that's one of Sharon's babies. And she'll talk a little bit more about artistic design later. And specials, for example, if you knew Dave Kapp, he passed away a couple years ago, and his family put a special award together of $100 for the best Kelvin floodlight. And so it's an opportunity to earn some extra money. Ron Miner, for example, puts $50 up for the best of his introductions at both the open center varieties and the fully doubles. So it is different for every show, from simple, as we'll see here in a second, to complex. And that just means multiple pages of show schedule, and you can see them online. Couple examples of a show schedule. The one on the left is actually one of the pages, one of the, I think, 13 or 14 pages of our show schedule for the summit show. And this one is for novice. And you can see, well, maybe you can see, maybe you can. It says a novice grower is anyone who has exhibited dahlias for 3 years or fewer. And then um, you can then enter your blooms, double A's and A's kind of go together, and you can see the numbers, the classification numbers that Sharon referred to are given there under different sizes. And then B, BB, the next line down, miniature, other fully double types, and then at the bottom, open center types. So the tables will have numbers on them that correspond to the classification number so that you'll know where to put your bloom after you have it staged. Staging just means you've put it in a vase, you like the way it looks, and you clean it up with your Q-tips and so on, and then you take it to the table. The one on the right you can see is very different. This is the one at Petites. That's a one page with a couple of addendum perhaps for the Jess's market bunch and Sharon's artistic design. But it's but that is the show schedule, and we'll have it on online. Don't hesitate, by the way, to ask us when you're there if you're confused as to, okay, where do I put this bloom and so forth. There's more. We're all very, very willing to help, and I think that's about it. Randy, you're up.
Yeah, thanks for everybody being here. And like I said in a previous, is this young man with me in our garden here is he's no longer with us, but he was 97 years old at the time. What a swell guy! And he obviously enjoyed the dahlias and made a great day. And now on when it comes time to cut. Don't forget, keep in mind the day and time your show is going to be placed. The freshest blooms are, cut just before the show. But when you have to be at the show on Saturday morning at 6 o'clock, I don't think you're going to go out there with a miner's light and want to start cutting your blooms. So I encourage you to look at your blooms especially your blooms and make sure they're in nice shape, the maturity of your blooms, and that may dictate when you want to cut your blooms. Now, I almost would say 99% of the time, I cut in the very early morning. That is when they are the freshest and crispest, most crisp and fresh during that time. If you wait until the evening, you got a period of day where they start to the heat and stuff starts to take its toll on them, and they will mature faster than you want. So sometimes you get an early bloom, you want to maybe delay a little bit of that cut time. Maybe I might cut on a Friday morning if it's getting mature, and then I may cut an early one. I might cut on Thursday if it's a young one, and I want to get it in and protect it and get it in a bucket, and make sure that you have that disinfectant bucket and your tools. In between each plant, you want to, make sure that you're using good, clean tools because that's going to be the health of your garden for a long time. Now, you got to make sure that when you're cutting, make sure you know the names and the classifications. And you can fill in your tags early. And that's Kathy does so much for me. I do most of the cutting, and she really does the putting them in the buckets on dowels and so on and so forth. She's my pro on that, so that makes a big difference. As far as your water temperature in your buckets, I prefer to have a mild temperature. Nothing. Sometimes you get too cold, and that can shock your plants and your stems. So they're not bringing that water up like they normally would be. And some people recommend putting them in a little bit extra warmer water, which supposedly opens up your stems and allows that the water to travel the length of your stem. And then, that is what makes your bloom that much more hydrated. So I think that's it there. And we can go
Okay,
on.
we'll let Tammy and Chris tell us about transporting them once you've got them cut and into the buckets.
Tammy, you want me to go first? I guess I will. First thing that I want to say to everybody is, like Sharon said, this presentation's kind of at the end of a fire hose. Bottom line is, plan to have fun, plan to come hang out with awesome people. Just grab 3 or 4 blooms your first time and just come to the show. One of the things I did, my first show, my daughter and I were supposed to do this together, and there was a weekend, the Summit Mall show. Everybody in my family was out of town, so I just went. I didn't bring any blooms because I didn't want to do it without my daughter, and I hung out with Jerry Moreno the whole night and helped people, and I didn't have a single bloom with me, and that was awesome. That was just being able to walk around without any blooms, see what people were doing, find out how they got them there, stuff like that. Although I guess I didn't pay much attention to how they got them there because that's a whole nother thing. So in transporting, what you don't want to do is what I did the first time, which was put my blooms in Tervis cups with golf balls, that I held the Tervis cups in place with baseballs that I had in boxes, which ended up being about 70 pounds. And Jerry Moreno and everybody laughed at me walking in with these big boxes from the Cuyahoga County Fair parking lot, but I had a little girl with a big smile on her face, and we got the blooms there. Walked around and looked at everybody's buckets. And Sharon, if you want to go to those pictures of the buckets, this is one of the main ways that people do it. And I guess I'll just talk about these a little bit. The bucket in the upper right that is in a blue milk crate, that is something that Sharon, Swaney, and Rob do. They put their buckets in the crate so that they don't tip. I did not know that until Tuesday of this week, which I think that's a pretty cool idea because the first show we went to, the last turn getting into Berea Fairgrounds, Quinn and I dumped a bucket in the back seat. But if you have an extra gallon of water or 2 in your car, which we did, you're able to quick prop it back up and fill it up with the water. Um, the bucket in the upper left corner, what you may or may not be able to see is in the bottom of that bucket is 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch insulation foam, which is a trick that Jim Chewy showed me and taught me. You cut the foam bigger than the bottom of the bucket and you smash it down into the bottom of the bucket so tight that it won't release and float because that foam it would float, but if you cut it just a little bit bigger than the bucket and jam it down in there, and then all those triangles that are cut out, number one, that helps it squeeze down into the bottom, but that's where you can set your stems. It's almost like a reverse frog for any of you that do like Ikebana arranging. The stem will fit into those triangles, or Quinn and I will take pieces of the dowel rods that you see in the lower left bucket. If you imagine that those dowel rods were just out, you can cut those pieces, stick it up in the stem. That will then go into those triangles, and all it does is hold the bottom of your stem towards the wall at the bottom. And then around the top of the bucket, there's holes drilled where you can see those pipe cleaners stuck through the holes, and you can wrap that pipe cleaner around the stem and the dowel rod that you've used on your stems that Tammy's going to talk about in a second. The lower left, the lower left bucket, that's just something that Quinn and I came up with on the fly. It's got chicken wire jammed in the bottom of it, and then we stuck dowel like marshmallow skewers through the holes that we were going to use for the twisties. And that's how we can pick a bunch of blooms, jam them all in there, and take them to her grandma and grandpa's house to deliver them without them mashing and stuff like that. But we've also used that bucket to take smaller stuff to the shows. And then I'm not sure whose bucket is in the lower right. I'll defer to whoever's that is, but that's another way of letting your stems and dowel rods get in there. But last thing that I want to say before I kind of let Tammy and everybody else go, the biggest, most important part of showing is to have fun. Come hang out with the people at the show, because you're going to talk to people that I guarantee you, whatever problem you're having in your garden, somebody at that show has either dealt with it before or is dealing with it at the same time. And you get a chance to talk to people. You don't have to wait for somebody else to get done, so to speak. You can just have 4 or 5 people together talking about whatever your problems or goals or hopes are. And it's just really awesome. I mean, Quinn probably enjoys showing more than any other aspect of the dahlias, and she planted 78 double B's today. So, I mean, she loves a lot of this stuff, but she really likes showing. So, Tammy, if you want to talk about putting dowel rods on stems.
Sure. Another important part of transporting is supporting your bloom. So what we do is we take dowel rods and secure it to the stem, and either using pipe cleaner or another thing. I don't know if you can see on the bottom of that picture, there's that big purple bloom up front. Yep. We also can use cotton balls and a lady's hair clip to help secure those. And then that's what you're going to put that whole piece in the bucket and secure it with the pipe cleaner. It's not my favorite part. It's time consuming, but it is probably the most important part in getting them transported. They need support. You'll see a lot of people just bring blooms in and shove them in a bucket, and you're going to lose some. So they do need the support in order to get them to the show. And that's it.
Alrighty, so we finally get to the show, and Jerry's going to tell us what might happen.
Okay, so as we mentioned before, there are various events that take place, the setup, staging, judging, and tear down, and a couple other items here. The setup, and it's different for each show. So again, I have to emphasize, you need to make sure you read the show schedules, because they will indicate to you what the timing is of and what takes place for each of these events. The staging, I think Randy's going to tell us a little more details on staging here. Judging, and not only judges, but clerks are really important. And Ron is going to talk about that later. After the show is over, then we need to tear down our equipment, our vases, and so forth. And get them back to our storage area. By the way, our storage area right now is set in a trailer that Bill and Pat Sadataki have loaned us for a while, and it's being stored at Countryside Florist in Richfield. And we thank them very much for allowing us to do that. The reporting part is all of the blues that get recorded in the show are then reported to Sharon, who then sends them off to ADS. And that's when, if you look at your classification book and you see at the end of the book all of the numbers of blues and higher awards that various blooms have been awarded, that's what that reporting is about. And Sharon will talk a little bit more about that later. We do need you for setup because the Court of Honor, again, that Ron's going to talk about a little later, it needs to be set up, and we want all of that taken care of. The tables covered, cards put down, which have the numbers on it so that you know where to put each of your blooms. And then you can stage your blooms and then go and then hopefully help in judging, or at least start out with clerking.
Okay, Randy, talk to us about staging.
All right, yeah, staging, and it says here, when you come into the show, walk in and walk around the show, and take some time to orient yourself and see where your blooms might end up on the table, and it is your responsibility to make sure that it ends up in the right place. With that said, if you do not do that, then that bloom may sit on a table in the wrong place and never be judged and never get its just reward. And that's not it's not about you. It's about the bloom. You're supposed to do the best you can for that bloom. And so the DSO, they supply your vases, your wedges, and your oasis tags and clips, and so they have all the stuff ready. Hopefully, the show's getting a little bit better that they have ample amount of them that are already vases with water in them. That really speeds up your process. But and my one thing that I would say to anybody who is new and thinking about doing this, take the time and go and watch Tony's judging video or staging video. I watch it relentlessly, and he does such a nice job. He was such a nice man. Almost makes me cry to talk about him, but he does a great job. He and Jackie in that video. So take some responsibility and watch that video, because it's only going to make you a better grower and a better exhibitor. And don't forget, like so many before me today have said, come to shows to have fun and to meet people. It's like, to me, it's like if I go to a shopping mall, I'm content to just sit and watch people and visit with people and stuff while everybody else is out shopping. But there's more to it than just the exhilaration of winning and so on and so forth. Bud Moore, who was an icon in the Midwest, he said that early on in my career, I used to come for the blooms, and now I come for the people. And you find out as you go through the process that that's so true. Now we're going to move on to major restrictions, and Sharon did a great job on this, and each bloom exhibit has to have a pair of leaves on it. You know, that's a must. And it just helps set up the bloom itself. It's kind of like me, if you know, if I showed up and just had my head, no arms and stuff like that, look out of whack. So you want them leaves to be there, and you're not allowed to have support the stem. There's always somebody that wants to stick a skewer or something up inside the stem to try to straighten them, and so on and so forth. And that's not allowed, as is you know, when it comes to your foliage, you want to take some time with a cotton ball and clean your foliage and wipe any damage down. You know, sometimes you'll get some powdery mildew on, and if you diligent enough and take some time, you can wash that off and make everything presentable. And that's your job, to present your bloom in the best light. And obviously, you don't want a blown center, which is a bloom that has matured too far, and it's full of pollen, and that becomes an automatic.
If it's still raining, maybe I'll trade it, but I mean, when we once over.
Sorry,
expulsion.
Ron's not.
But that's something you don't want to do if they're blown. Now there's Ron will get into this, but in the novice section, you know, there's a little more forgiving, so they want to encourage novice people to show. And now we're on to the tag, and obviously you can see that this is a bona fide Midwest tag, and most of the shows you go to in the Midwest will have this particular tag. And you start with the section. Now that's going to be some people call it in some bloom. In fact, some shows, even the national this year, you're classified as a small grower, medium grower, mediate grower, intermediate grower, large grower, professional grower. So there may be like 6 or 7 section divisions there. So if you're a small grower, you may put the show schedule will designate a number for that. So a small grower may be designated as a 2. So you would put a 2 in that section. The class is as Sharon was talking earlier, that's your bloom designation. And I used an embrace as an example. So an embrace would be class 3 to 11. So they'd be red-eye, but 3 to 11, and it is your 3 designates the size, which would be a BB, and then the 2 is your form, which would be a semi-cactus, and the 11 is the color, that's your bronze. And obviously the name of the flower is an embrace, or whatever you bring. And then the specific awards, that's designated for your clerk. Your clerk's going to put that in as how your judging team ends up with where that should be, whether a first would be a blue, second's a red, and a third may be a white. And down below you'll see a V, and Sharon did a nice job. She highlighted that. And what that is, that's a tab that you will bend up after you put your name, and it could be an exhibitor number where you would put in a tab where you sign in your name and address. A lot of people are using stickers or stamps with their name, and then you would fold that under that V tab. And the only person that should see that information is your clerk. So make sure that your clerk gets the time that they deserve because they have a big job. Okay, I'm done now.
All righty. We said earlier that we have some other things going on other than just single specimen blooms and multiples. And one of those, which is kind of new, is the Dahlia Market Bunch, and it just got renamed this year. So Jessica's going to tell us about that.
Yeah, so the Dahlia Market Bunch was started by the ADS Cut Flower Committee, which I'm part of. And really, the Cut Flower Committee was started to kind of represent the growers that grow dahlias mainly to sell, like myself, but are still interested in showing. And in particular, the market bunch is really how you would cut your flowers if you were to take them to a market and sell them. So we have kind of come up with characteristics that we look for and how those characteristics are then judged as they pertain to how they would sell at the market. And so we've really created this category to enable growers like myself who are probably more familiar with cut growers or cut flowers and give them kind of a space at the shows that could be a little more easier for them to get into because it's something they're already familiar with. But that being said, anybody is welcome to participate in this category. And yep, and Sharon kind of outlined what the scorecard is. And so 15% of that is due to color. And unlike how color is judged if you were to show a single bloom, there's really more flexibility to color when we're talking about what will sell. And you know, some of the blooms that could be too muddy to exhibit normally, or if there's streaking or wolf petals, those could sell just fine and could be included in the Dahlia Market Bunch. Really, the largest percentage, the 45% is around like the bloom itself and the condition of the bloom. And unlike exhibition, where you kind of want to let your blooms go until they're almost too mature, like exhibition, you want it as fully mature as possible before that center blows. For the market bunch, you really want to harvest these more immaturely because that will get your customer the longest amount of time in a vase. So the condition of the petals, that's pretty similar, I think, to exhibition. You don't want them bruised or damaged. And then uniformity as to how it pertains to the bunch itself. And then stem quality is pretty important for a market bunch as well. And I would say that's probably closely tied to exhibition as well. Not so much the bloom angle, but you definitely don't want a bloom that is facing down or has a weak stem or is a bobblehead. And so that's 40% of the score.
Okay, we also have arrangements at our shows, and DSO does this at Summit and Petites. And there might be different levels for competition. At Summit, we have a novice category and a more experienced category. We don't do that at Petites, and Petites is a little it's just for fun. When we set up the show schedule, we declare a theme, and this year it's going to be about celebrations. And there are different categories within the theme, And this year, they're going to be things like a baby shower, a wedding, a pool party, Thanksgiving. And then the category may have a challenge. So for Thanksgiving, it's supposed to be a beautiful centerpiece that you would put on your Thanksgiving table. For baby shower, it has to be a real teeny tiny arrangement. So you always want to be sure you read the rules. The rules tell you how big arrangements can be. The categories might put even extra conditions on size and things like that. But every show is different. So really be careful to read the rules. And that's true about everything. That the show schedule just tells you what you need to know, but you got to read it. Sometimes you have to register ahead. That is not true with DSO, but if you go to the Midwest or National Show, which is a combined show this year, you do have to register ahead, and they even limited people. You were only allowed to enter 2 categories because they were getting such, so many people wanted to be in arrangements that they had to cut it back. And we do something a little different at Petitti's. We always do bouquets at Petitti's. So there again, just showing all the different ways that dahlias can be beautiful. There is or are, whatever's proper, in show schedules, sometimes the show will have a vase and basket category or 2 different categories. Again, every show does it differently. Be sure to read the rules. And we do these at Summit. This just gives you an idea of what the show schedule looks like for vases. Excuse me. And blooms must be grown by the exhibitor, no filler. That might be different at another show, but at our shows, no filler. Got to have foliage. All the blooms must be the same size as in B or BB and form, but they can be different colors. So if you decide that you've got a whole bunch of beautiful BBs, you could do a vase of BBs. It tells you are to have 5 BBs. And again, they have to follow the rule above. So simple, as long as you read the instructions. Baskets, very similar. By DSO standards, a basket is a container made of an interwoven material and must have a handle. We almost had blood on the floor one year about arguing about the handle. So real specific now, you gotta have a handle. And the basket has to be provided by the exhibitor. The blooms must be grown by the exhibitor, and the entry must be staged by the exhibitor. You can put in filler, and mixed forms and colors are allowed. So let's say you want to do a basket of B's and BBs. You must have 7 of them. And then one of them is going to go to the Court of Honor, which we're going to hear more about in a minute. Okay, Ron, take it away for judging.
Wow. Okay. Am I on? Am I muted?
Yep.
No, okay.
We can hear you.
I feel a little like we've now covered all the work parts of the process, and now we're going to talk about the fun part of the process. This is where the conversations that happen that lead to, ongoing good relations between our folks, and I feel like it is a very important part of the process. Heard a lot about classification. Basically, that is an approach that allows you to group flowers that are similar in appearance to be judged together. And it's a fairly arbitrary set of definitions, but it's what is necessary to get groups of flowers that are appropriate to be judged against one another. And we're going to talk about how that happens. Your judging team will be assigned a kind of a specific set of blooms. And let's just say, for example, that we get that our team gets the
BB sizes. And so we would start by looking over the whole class, a whole section, to make sure that everything's in the right place. And that is an important function to not only for the judges, but also for the clerks to make sure everything is in the right place. But given that that's been accomplished, say we start with the whites, or let's talk about the yellows, we will have a group of, say, 5-inch, roughly 5-inch diameter yellow blooms. And let's say they're the formal decorative, since those tend to be the first ones in the list. And what we do is have a conversation about what we perceive to be the relative strengths and the relative weaknesses, the faults that we see. And that's just a basically roundtable conversation, and everybody should provide their perspective on what they see, and the senior judge responsible for that team should also be encouraging folks to provide their thoughts and their perspectives on their observations on the flowers. And that's the kind of conversation that leads to not only good friends, but also to increasing your knowledge of dahlias and how to get the best out of them. So we would reach a consensus on which flower among those maybe 10 yellow BB formal decorative blooms, and we would decide on what first and second, and maybe depending on the show, first, second, and third, and we would help the clerk get that information onto the tags. Often we check every tag just to make sure that everybody has looked at every bloom, and to let the exhibitor know that it was actually observed and discussed. So we've got one color accomplished. Now we need to look at all of the other 14 additional colors and determine which is the best in each of those categories. And then we begin the process of moving up the scale towards the Court of Honor, because then we would compare all of the color classes, the winners in each of those color classes, and decide which among them is the best BB formal decorative. It would cover all of the color classes. And in that case, there would generally not be a second, just a first place, which is the best among them. And having accomplished that, we would next be going through that same process for the different forms. So at the end of the next step, we will have the responsibility to compare the best BB formal deck with the best BB informal deck, and semi-cactus and cactus and incurved cactus and laciniated. So in principle, we might have should have 5 excellent BB cultivars to examine. And as you can imagine, that process gets down to finer and finer detail the further up you go, because you're comparing the best of the different classes. And eventually, at some point, we'll start the clerk will help us to identify at what stage we reach blooms that go onto the Court of Honor. And a similar process will be going on, maybe with a different team, for all the Bs and all of the As and all of the double As and the miniatures. So that part of the process is pretty well defined, and it is also similar instructions for the balls and the other forms as well. Okay, I think, let's see, I'm largely at the end of what I was going to say on that, I guess.
And here's a
Oh.
nice picture of a court of honor from a long time ago when we used to be
Yeah.
at Parmatown.
And one of the things that you see there is how much I left out just by focusing on the size classes, because there are triples there. And so there will be hopefully a large number of teams. Usually we have the order of 4 or 5 judging teams to get through the process of judging in a reasonable period of time. It can take a couple hours to get it done. And at national shows, it tends to be longer, but there are also many more teams at a national show. Okay, I think that's it.
And last but not least, where does all the data go? So as we're going through the process of judging, the clerk is recording blue ribbons. And then as the flowers move up the scale, as Ron said, competing to be the best formal deck, and then competing against the other forms to be the best of that size and form. The clerk is recording all of this. We call the higher levels, as you're moving up the chain, we call those the higher awards, just as a generic name. And all of that information is reported to the ADS, and then it shows up in next year's classification guide. So if you want to kind of research flowers, you can look at each individual cultivar that's in the book. So that's the most popular ones, and see how many blues did they win in the West? How many blues did they win in the East or the Midwest? Or actually they call us Central. So all of that information gets reported, and it's an arduous task to report it. And it's a more arduous task for the lady that gets that into the book. We will put the Court of Honor on the DSO website. And then we will also report in the form of a kind of open format report to ADS, and those are in the online year-end report section that is on the ADS website. So you can go and look at the reports that came from all over the country. We're allowed to send in a few pictures, and then we always, show the Court of Honor. So that's where the data goes. And I want to thank our experts, and here are their emails in case you have questions that we don't talk about yet tonight. And I know everybody is willing to help others come and have the fun and be a part of the shows.
Sharon, if I can just add a comment at the end, one of my favorite mentors used to spend most of the staging time helping people, and ended up half the time not getting his blooms out on the tables. That probably not half the time, but that's the kind of spirit that you will find as a beginner. We're going to be helpful in getting your blooms up there on the tables. And I hope that you'll feel that way about it. I think most people do.
So look forward to the resource guide. Jess, you're going to send out the information about the recording, correct?
Yeah.
And then we'll give you a link to the link or links to the resource guide. So a lot of more information coming.
Yep. And does anyone have questions? Now's your chance.
Come on, we couldn't have been that
Thorough.
thorough. Somebody must have a question.
I have a question.
Okay, go for it.
How many flowers do you need to have in the bouquet? Just out of curiosity.
For
in the market bouquet.
It depends on the show. I believe last year we did 5.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's different types. Last year we had same variety, 5 of the same variety, so like 5 Cornells or
Mm-hmm.
but this year, what the cut flower committee is trying to do is to like loosen that up, because unless you're a large grower, you might not have 5 or more Cornell plants where you could get 5 blooms at the same time. So now they're, I I would need to check the PowerPoint, but I think it's more by like color family. So it could be like a Cornell, a Jackie's Red Devil. So it's still reds around the same size, but it doesn't have to be like the exact same variety. So closer to petites. I know Jerry messaged about this. I haven't had a chance to respond, but we will identify like what our market bunch will be for this year. And then that'll give you some guidance as to like what you can bring with you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's a little easier to set up too, Heidi, because you just have to rubber band those 5 stems together. It's not like the exhibition side where you have to like get it in a vase, then make sure the angle's good. So it's a little easier to get into and to give it a try.
Mhm. Good.
Good
Yeah.
question, Jess.
Yeah,
In that market bunch, how are the leaves handled? Do you have to have a set or?
you do not.
Okay,
Yeah. Um, if you do have them, they should be in good condition. But most cut flower growers like myself, the first thing you'll do is strip those leaves, because that helps the bloom last longer. So
gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
Hi,
With the
I guess
market bunch,
last-
Tammy had said something about where people, the judges touch them and that, and, or Tammy, I think Tammy had said the turn them upside down or something. I guess, could you explain how they're judged? Like the 15% for color, is it, are you looking at other reds in the exhibit to just say this one's better, these are better reds than the other reds? How do those numbers come in, I guess?
Oh, so it's not better reds. And let me find, I think Sharon's going to include this. I'm trying to find it on the ADS website, but I'll drop this.
I will stop my share. It's under grow,
Yeah,
cut flowers.
let me pull this up real quick. And I'm not on my multiple monitors, so this is a little harder for me to share. Give me a sec. Yeah, had too many windows open, guys. I just want to look this over again to make sure. So
This should be the new one.
yeah,
I just,
specifically you're asking about color.
I just mean, I guess I just wonder how they're judged. Like even maybe just talk us through how a bunch is judged, like specifically. I guess because it's,
I think
Mhm.
just watching you at the Petiti show, the things that surprised me were the fact that you do not disbud, that you took the bunch out literally and flipped them upside down and shook them. So it's almost, and the centers are very tight. So it's almost somewhat opposite of what we want to see, in our regular setup. So I think maybe explaining those differences would help.
Yeah, and so some of that, Tammy, I'm going to drop this PowerPoint in because this will walk you through specifics. But with the market bunch, here's an example of what they're talking about. To sell things either to florist or at a farmer's market, it's different than exhibition, because you would remove these side shoots, you would disbud those. Florists don't care, customers don't really care. So this is kind of what Tammy's referring to. So a lot of times, if you're a large cut flower grower, you don't have time to like walk your rows and disbud. So you will end up with dahlias that look like this. Um, and yes, the big difference is we will be handling these and you should. So when when the judges get a hold of them, they will pick that bunch up, kind of give it a good shake to make sure that bloom attachment is truly there. There's nothing worse than a florist getting a bloom and putting it in a vase and that whole top pops off. So the dahlias should be sturdy. They should be able to work into different arrangements with other flowers around them. So that's something that we look for. This example from the show last year was 5 of the same kind. So this is all of the same variety. If you, and I think what we will end up doing this year, Chris, is we'll probably do like 5 of the same color family. Um, and it's not necessarily judging which color is going to be better, because if you saw the points, the color is 15 points. Really what will like whittle that down will be the condition of the blooms, the consistency of the immaturity. And so what I mean by that is when you harvest those blooms, and I think there's a slide here, you can see the center is tighter on this top one. I don't know that I could zoom this in any further. Sorry about that. Versus a bloom that is more mature. And so ideally, you want all of the blooms to be the exact same maturity level. So if I was a florist and I was using all 5 of those blooms in an arrangement, they would die around the same time, right? There's nothing worse than one bloom going and then you're like trying to pull that out, and then the second and the third. So ideally, they're all around that same age of maturity. The blooms shouldn't be bruised or the petals damaged. And really, as you're like binding those blooms by the stem, that's why the longer stem length you get, because you're rubber banding them, I would argue probably the better luck you're going to have not damaging those blooms versus a shorter stem, and then your blooms are going to start to crowd together a little bit more. The minimum is 12 inches. I personally try to shoot for like 14. And I know that's a lot and you're cutting deep. But I assure you, even though you're cutting deep, your dahlias will come back and they will keep blooming. So those are some of the things that we look for. I appreciate both Pat and Sharon were willing to learn how to judge this last year. And I think a lot of times, like, once they're out and you can then compare, just like exhibition, you're walking through the different characteristics. And we actually had this printed, so the guidelines as to what we were looking for. And then we went through each bundle or each bunch and evaluated it based off of this. So just like exhibition, if there was stuff that we knew was not as good as others, we set it back. And then we really just walked through all of this together as a group, and we talked about what we were seeing. Does that help?
Is there a way to describe the color values? Like you've got pictures of some there. Would you say, oh, this is a 15 out of 15 for color, or this is a
I think this is pretty close, Chris.
So what would be the characteristics for why is that a 15? I guess is my
So for this at last year's show, knowing that they were 5 of the same variety, the color on all of them was very similar, which is honestly a little odd with this particular variety because it can skew anywhere from like a solid, well, in my garden, a solid pink to almost like a pale yellow. So having that consistency across the color was something that we looked at uh, just on this 5 of the same variety. This year, if we do 5 of various reds, I think something that you would want to look for would be, are those reds harmonious or do they clash? So I'm trying to think of AC Abbey, I think is a good example of something that's like crazy bright red, like the petals are kind of that hot red, where to me in my garden, Jackie's Red Devil is almost like a very dark red. So as if I were to arrange those two, I probably wouldn't put them together, if that makes sense, Chris, color wise.
yeah, I'm okay.
And there's, other examples in this document. If this was exhibition, this would be a fault, but for cut flowers, this is totally fine. In fact, I think you would have a lot of success selling this bottom bloom the way that it is, just because it's so unique. Yeah. And once we decide what it's going to be for petites, if people want ahead of time, I could probably host something here at the house, or maybe we could find a location a little more central. I know Cleveland Heights is like such a pain in the butt to get in and out of. But if somebody else is willing, I can like bring some examples and kind of show people how they might go about doing this. So email me if you're interested, and I can work towards setting that up.
Jess, Janelle asked about the contents of the quote unquote bag. Just to review that again, pruning shears or a knife, like a carpet knife, would be used to cut the stem in order to get the proper size in your vase. A long knife, like you see this one, it can be used for cutting your oasis, if you use the oasis. Certainly your tags filled out and the classification book, a rag and paper towels just to clean up around your area. And also, as Randy was mentioning, if you have powdery mildew, sometimes if you bring some milk along, milk will help to wipe that mildew off. So you need paper towels for that. And then I mentioned Q-tips to remove any insect debris from your blooms. And often we use this spray bottle with water just to give the bloom a nice drink, so to speak, before you take it to the table.
I think too, Tony used to have what are those little cuticle scissors, right, Tammy? Do you remember that? Tony, he would have like little cuticle scissors to like, because I was terrible at just budding, he would help me.
Oh,
Emery scissors or a scalpel. I carry a little X-Acto
Yeah.
knife because I
Cuticle.
sometimes miss them too. And
Emery.
Tony also carried sandpaper in
Yes,
case
Yeah,
there was
that's
a
true
bad
too.
thing on a stem.
he would just like gently sandpaper it
Yeah,
down.
I'm not brave enough to do that. Yeah, no sandpaper in my bag.
Thank you.
Points. Ballpoint pen.
Yep, a pen. There'll be pencils, like Jerry always has pencils. And even though I have like Jerry, I know you recommend like the mailing link to like quickly put your
dummy.
oh, Paul is yelling. Oh, there we go. I always forget those mailing labels, so I'm always scrambling the day of to like write my information down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll have the list in the resource packet.
Thank you.
I intend to do this every time and I always forget. But if you can write down what you're bringing ahead of time, Tammy's really good at this.
It saves a lot of stress.
Yeah, because otherwise you're just like scrambling through your book. If it's in the book, to like write down like its class and color. So if you can do it ahead of time.
And that was my point about doing it even early in the season. Once you plant something, it's a potential to go to the show. So, that's the time to find out its name, look up the class, find out if it's an ABS Dahlia, etc. But surely when you cut, do that.
Yeah, I try to go out to the garden a day or two before the show and see what possibly I may be bringing. And then I'll fill those tags out and have them ready to go.
I was gonna mention for those first time showers that when you're cutting your blooms, cut them the stems extra long and leave the foliage on and bring it to the show. You don't know what size vase you're gonna use. So then you tailor to that vase and trim it up there.
You can always take leaves and stem off, but you can't put it back.
Those stems, toenail.
Yeah, you can, but don't go there, Jess.
Oh, come on.
Now, I've seen a few novice bring in very short stems, and I said it would have been nice if they were a little longer and to fit it right with the leaves.
Yeah, I would recommend watching Tony's video, Heidi, because he'll kind of walk you through some things you could do to lengthen your stem if you need to. We'll put it that way.
Chewy's good at that too, so that'd be who you'd ask on site.
And any of us can help you too. Like Jerry was a saint for my first show. He, like to Ron's point, put his stuff to the side, helped me get everything I needed. I was so nervous. And he really made it like such a good experience for me that I hope anybody coming to one of our shows would have a similar experience. So every person on this call, that shows is always more than happy to help you. Some will definitely have their game face on and you'll know, like Chewy sometimes can, but he will still help you if you need help and you ask him. See, and Kat just said Jerry and Ron taught her everything she needed to know as well.
Thanks, Jess and Kat.
Other questions that you guys have? Okay. So we'll open this up to like general Q&A. I don't really have any club business for tonight.
I guess, Jess, I should mention that we lost a member last week. Bill Tackus passed away. Gosh, I'm not sure, within the last week or so. And he was not a longtime member, but I kind of got him interested in it 10 years ago or so. He was 92 years old, I think.
Oh, wow.
So had
Yeah.
an old Bainbridge family for sure.
Yeah.
So he will be missed.
You remind me, Ron, we haven't had a meeting, but Jeff Campbell also passed.
Yeah.
I
Right.
didn't know
Yeah.
him, but I know some of those who have been showing for a while knew Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff was a member for quite a while, actually.
For a long time, yeah. Yeah.
He lived in Chardon. Bill lived in Bainbridge.
We're all better people because of them too.
Yeah.
Jerry?
I think he's listening, Mike. Jerry.
Oh, okay. Jerry,
Yeah.
did you happen to get the email regarding the Cuyahoga County Fair? That I sent one yesterday. I got
Yeah.
on this. Okay. I will send you the email, but since that is the first show that we have,
Yeah.
this is just some additional information for people. That if you do enter that Cuyahoga County Fair, you can enter it through personally going out to the fair office. You can do it through email, and they also send out the booklet to people who have done it before. So there are several ways that you can do that, but
Yeah.
that needs to be done before the show. I mean, at one time we were able to pay for the entry fee the same day of the show, but they would prefer that that gets done prior to the show. With that entry, you will also get 2 free tags to get into the fair, and those will be mailed to people after the Cuyahoga County Fair folks have received the application. And the gentleman that oversees our Dahlia Society barn said that we should at least give a week for them to mail out those extra tags to get people into the show. So just use that in your timing when you do put in your entry for the show.
By the way, Mike, the show schedule for Cuyahoga is not in the book. And so I'm asking Sharon at least to put it on our website so that, I mean, I don't know how fair people who are not DSO people will know what to do. It used to be in the book. It's not in this year's book.
I didn't notice that. Okay. The other thing too, I know that you had questioned was in regards to the trophies.
Yeah.
They provide those, but I did mention to him, maybe we could discuss at some point in time something other than the trophies, maybe just the money.
I don't know if we even had trophies last year. I know it's in the book, but I don't
Yeah,
think
well,
they didn't have them, and we just went with rosettes. As long as they have rosettes for everything on the court, and then bigger ones for the grand champion and reserve, that would be
Okay.
fine because we also give them extra money.
right. Well, I got a feeling there's going to be trophies also. So, I'll put it in an email to you to make sure you get it. But I did want to bring that up since that is the first show. So the main thing is, if you're going to want to participate in that show, get the entries in early.
Right.
That'll alleviate any problems.
Hey, Mike, did you kick out maintenance and we get our building back?
No.
No,
Darn.
that is about the slowest moving crew over there I have ever seen. That building was supposed to be done 2 years ago. They're still talking about it. So,
Darn.
oh, and the other thing is too, if anybody wants any rabbit manure, that guy's got it. Tom Sopry. So that's the report.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah.
No, Jess was having some computer issues. I think we may have just lost her again.
Yeah, I think we did lose Jess.
Maybe it's right under her.
So any other issues anybody has, questions? In fact, I think we lost, oh no, Sharon's still there.
There's big storms moving through the area. Maybe you're getting some too, but it looked like on the radar that it was hitting the Cleveland direction. So maybe it took out Jess's internet.
Yeah, may have. I think we've had enough rain for a while.
No kidding.
Yeah, I've got some tubers that are not coming up. I put
Yeah,
in the ground. So I don't know what's gonna happen.
I was digging to amend the soil on a new bed today, and we've got a lot of heavy clay out here. Oh boy, did it stink, and it was wet after all this.
so,
It kind of sticks and suctions onto the shovel.
where do you live, Jeff?
Rootstown,
Oh, yeah.
that's south of Ravenna and southeast of Kent.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pouring here right now.
I've had almost 5 inches of rain in the last 6 days.
Yeah.
I was gonna say some areas got considerably more than others, but it's kind of fun to like gripe with the neighbors about we've gotten over 4 inches, or it was close to 5 inches per hour of rain hitting today.
At least nothing like West Virginia and Virginia got 4 inches in a half hour.
Oh
Yeah, that's
wow.
amazing.
You can't even drive in that kind of rain.
Oh, I'll have to look that up.
Speaking of rain and floods, just so you guys will know, we sent hundreds of tubers to North Carolina because a lot of the people lost everything last year in the floods. So we had a donation from Anna's dad, and we were able to get those down to North Carolina.
I think so, Kat. That's in July. Kat asked if the next event is our picnic. And the picnic is scheduled for July the 19th, Saturday, from noon to 3. And Ron, are you doing, or Randy, are you doing something for a program?
Yes. Yeah, a small judging program.
Small
And
judging.
Jess is going to talk about market bunches again, or Dahlia bunches, Dahlia market bunches, whatever they're called.
Okay, and that's at the Mobius Nature Center in Aurora.
Yeah. And Jerry, I don't want to take up so much time because, you know, at least I feel that the picnic's time to, you know, bond and renew and rekindle friendships and so on and so forth. But I think Ron does such and yourself as well, a bang up job at the Petite Show with that judging seminar there. But we will have something, maybe just on a limited basis.
In that context, Randy, it's probably appropriate to mention that I'm hoping, or that Jerry and Randy and I are hoping to be in a position to be able to have a on-site trial garden-like judging seminar in my backyard this sometime when we have enough blooms that it makes sense. And anyhow, I have a large garden that's starting out with clean stock. Hopefully it stays clean, but I laid it out in such a way that they are by threes. So I think could be a very interesting opportunity to have a trial garden like judging seminar. And it's kind of in the back of our minds. It's not well defined yet. Us, it is. Jerry, Randy, you want to add anything to that? Kind of
I think that format, Ron, would be, it's just a tremendous learning tool. When you're right there with judging team and you're able to discuss all the criteria going along with good judging and stuff, and it comes together much better there.
Yeah, agree.
It must be seedlings, Ron, or
kind of a Heinz variety, some known varieties, and a lot of probably a lot of open-centered seedlings.
Yeah.
I don't know how many. Oh, well, yeah, there are some fully double seedlings as well in there, I believe.
Yeah. Welcome back, Jess. We've just been carrying on discussions in your absence. Glad to see you back.
A day with this internet, I'll tell you, this is like the 5th time all day long.
Oh,
That's okay. Ron, do you have an idea of when you guys want to do that? July or
Well,
August?
probably August. I have a wedding that coincides with the Cuyahoga Fair. So probably after that.
Okay.
Best guess.
All right. I might need Kat and Pat to help me with the August newsletter. So when you let me know, email Pat and Kat as well. I'll be in Italy starting the 1st of August. So I too will miss Cuyahoga County Fair this year. So I want to make sure, Ron, that it goes out in the newsletter.
Okay, what's the date for the newsletter?
We usually send it the first Monday of the month, which I think would be August 4th.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
yes, we can definitely help cover with the newsletter, and I'll be at Cuyahoga too, so no problem.
Or I want to give people time to plan. So if it's earlier well, let me know if it's early August and we'll do a special email just for that. But if it's later in August, then it could go in the digest.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
and are we still looking at doing a bouquet class?
Yes, that is on my list too.
And now that I'm done with this, I will think about the arrangement class.
Yes. That's my homework, Sharon.
Okay,
get
well, I got mine too, to put the resource thing out, and then I'll start working on what we can do for an arrangement class
Okay.
and where.
Other topics you guys have?
Jim, everything set up for the national? Everything else set up for the national?
Well, I just finished a layout for trying to accept 3,500 blooms in our main room.
Oh boy.
It's completely changed from 2017. The bloom count is up, I think 33% from 2000 to like 3,500, and we increased our tabletop 41%. We went from 84 tables, now we're up to 116 tables. You know, it's I'm just hearing about this bunch, whatever you call it. I've never heard of it until tonight. And when it came up, I think last Wednesday at our Zoom meeting, I said, until I see a set of rules, I don't even know if we have room for this, but it's all news to me. Nobody sent me anything, and I have no idea how it's judged, who judges it.
Yeah, so it's just people in the club. I don't think, Jim, that it was intended to be in the ADS national show, though. So guidelines were just added to the website, I want to say a couple months ago. And then I think there was a message from the ADS. I can't remember where I saw it. But essentially, if any club is interested in trying it, Wayne Lobaugh is currently running the Cut Flower Committee. He took over when I was sick. So let me know if you need Wayne's email.
Oh, I know Wayne well.
Okay, yeah. So Wayne can kind of talk you through it. I think our intent for this year is to just have it at the club level so people can get used to it. And I believe we're going to work on a video, like a judging video, to kind of help teach how to judge it if you don't have somebody on the committee like myself or Wayne or Christine around to like help teach you. So that's something that we're going to work on, I think, this summer still. And
well, I never thought somebody would tell me that, you know, after doing 52 shows and, you know, being a senior judge for 5 years, that somebody was going to teach me about how to judge something. I find it kind of, I don't know. I just like to read the rules just to see what your goal is, you know. I mean, I heard a part of your discussion, and it says, you know, the longer stems are valued. And then it says, I read some of your rules, and it said, but this budding's not mandatory, and that you should just avoid the distraction of them hanging out. I don't know how you do that. You know, I'm just.
And Jim, you might not be the best cut flower judge, and that's okay. I think, you know, that's a conversation that we talked about as well. Like, it would be hard to train somebody to look at it in a different way, right? Just like my learning process becoming a candidate judge was to look at it in a way that I wasn't accustomed to do. So I can definitely understand your perspective, and I can understand that there's probably people that want nothing to do with cut flowers, and that's okay. I think from the ADS perspective, where I was part of the board. I also took off when I got sick, and I'm not on the ADS board anymore. But in some of those surveys, they found that there was an overwhelming group of people that are interested in cut flowers. And so when we think about how can we bridge the gap between exhibition and cut flowers, this market bunch is something that we're trying. So the hope is, Heidi, I'm going to pick on you a little bit, but if Heidi is really interested in cut flowers and arranging and not so sure how she feels about exhibition, this is like an easy way for her to try her hand at something that isn't as intense as exhibition can be.
We tried it for the first time at Petiti's last year, and I'm old school, Jim, so I come from a background more like what you come from, although not as good at it, and it was really fun. I saw flowers I had never seen before. And I could really appreciate the beauty of the bunch, you know, when you see 5 of them together, and it was a lot of fun. And so I think it will be a good addition as we go along, and just showing dahlias in another way that they can be enjoyed.
Yeah, and I've heard the California societies, if not all of them, I think a majority of them are going to do it this year. National Capital, I think, is doing it, which was a surprise to me. We're going to do it, and I don't know if Robert is still on. I think he hopped off, but I think Robert was interested in doing it at his society as well. So I think it's like an exciting opportunity, especially if you're really into cut flowers. And Jim, I think the only thing previously that has been at the national show has been a table talking about dahlias as cut flower. And we did that at National Capital, and we did it at the Portland show last year. We were going to do it, but I got sick, so I was not able to like fly out to set it up. And because I'm still not sure where I am, I did not ask or reach out to your society this year just because I'm not sure if I can attend. So it's a little bit on the table and the kind of display that we've put together at the other national shows. We didn't ask for that this year either.
Paula said that West Michigan did it last year.
Did they?
And they're going to be the next national, aren't they?
Yes.
So that might be a good place to try it for the first time at the national level.
Yeah.
It's the only reason why it was brought to my attention, because we were the first national show to show micros.
Yes, and you had the cutest table of micros ever.
And it's
I
in the same
loved
spot.
that display.
It's in the same spot.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we have I think 8 or 9 presenters for the national show, and one of them is vase building for the whole vase, building a vase for the house. I understand that part. Also, that was mentioned before about bench trials and garden trials. Bob Schroeder is going to follow up Terry Schroeder's presentation on color with a bench trial right after her presentation. So there'll be at least 3 seminars on judging.
And Jim, I'll drop in. There's a photo. I just dropped the link of what the display looked like at the National Capital National Show. That's what we did there.
All right, I'll take a look.
Yeah. So, and like I said, we weren't planning on doing it this year.
Yeah, that's a lot of area to take up. I'll tell you that, where we're at.
Yeah.
We're fighting for every square inch.
Yeah. It was a little less at Portland too. I just don't have a picture of that one.
I was there. I remember seeing it.
It was right when you walked in on the left.
Well, there were several entryways to Portland, and there was 2 levels. So I'm not sure where.
It's just in the hotel. It was just one level.
It was at the hotel, across the bridge from the.
2 years ago. Yeah.
I don't remember seeing it. I stayed at the hotel. That's
Yeah.
all right. I'll check it out. I'd like to get my hands on it and at least look at the rules, and see how many years I'll have to study to gain them, to test for it and stuff.
Well, we'll see if we'll let you test for it. How's that?
Yeah. Well, come on. This is America. Come on.
Right. I'm teasing you. So. Okay.
Well, there probably ought to be a judging module for it someday.
Yeah, Sharon, I think that's something we've talked about as well. But to be fair, I haven't been at all of those meetings until I just went to the last one.
It'll take time to get everybody trying it, but I thought it was real fun.
Same. I thought it was too.
Are bouquets and market bunch two different?
Very different.
Yeah.
Now bouquets though, so market bunch was on the court at Petiti's.
And we had bouquets on the court and arrangements on the court. So we had three kind of different things. The
Okay,
bouquet is just what you'd think of if you were going to stop and buy a bouquet for your wife
yeah,
on the way home from work, filler, different, a few different flowers. We require that dahlias dominate, but it's, think of it as something you would bring home on a personal level. Market bunch is what would be at a market.
It's
That's why they call it the market bunch.
yeah.
And that people would buy so that they can build those bouquets.
Yes.
And
So
then arrangements is the thing we've been doing for a long time.
each of those was judged then separately and the best was put on the court.
Well, the bouquets and the arrangements at Petiti's were just voted on by membership. Any member could have a ballot, and that's how that worked. At Summit, we didn't do bouquets at Summit,
No.
and the arrangements were judged. We had a little issue. We didn't get our professional, we didn't get our garden club things.
Yeah.
Maybe Kathy Foyth and somebody else ended up doing that. I mean, they were qualified, but they weren't our normal thing. And Pat, are we still on for having the people from the florist do it this year?
I would love to ask them to send a couple designers down to judge our arrangements. I just kind of need the green light. If you think it's okay, I'd be happy to.
Oh, yeah.
I just didn't want to do it,
Yeah, I would love to do it. I'm a little concerned Saturday morning might be a big, a busy time for them.
Well, I think they'd like to do it though. They're really somewhat invested in our club, and we do support them and take them flowers, and their designers they're just phenomenal. I think they'd be great judges if they could send a couple gals down.
And we can send them, our rules are a lot looser than like the Ohio garden rules, but we can send them our rules, and I could just talk with them on kind of what our philosophy is.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'll talk to them and give them the dates, and if they can make it, or they've got a lot of weddings and things, but still, it's only just for a couple of hours.
Right.
To come down.
Right.
I think they'd be fine. I think they'd
Yeah,
like.
I think that would be great. So you and I and a couple designers could get on a Zoom meeting and talk about it. We don't need to make it complicated, but
Okay, I'll keep you in the loop.
we know they've got the eye to look at harmony and balance. It's all the same things that they do every day. So
Every day, yep. Okay.
Rob just showed up.
Ask Rob if he's ordered the tables for Petiti's.
Have you ordered the tables for Petiti's?
No, I have not yet.
And remember, we're going to, I think, I'll have to check the number, but I think we wanted at least 2 or 3 more tables this year than last.
Okay.
Does 40 sound right?
Does 40 tables sound right?
Sounds about right. I kept the records too. I'll check.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Well, if nothing else, I was going to stop the recording and go over financials if anybody wants to stick around just a little bit longer. Okay, let me stop.